Well, what's been one of the more underrated coaching performances in the last 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been, Piero Gasperini's Atalanta are again subverting expectation and becoming what looks to be a pretty formidable force, not just in Serie A, where they've climbed up to second, only a point behind league leaders Napoli, but fifth, I believe, in the Champions League phase. Now, look, it's hard to sort of read where positions actually mean with still 3 games to go within the Champions League phase because, it's a competition that's changed pretty drastically and we don't know how to read it. But the fact that they're undefeated in it, 3 wins, 2 draws, a great away record as well, just says everything about this team and the accomplishments that they've achieved after winning the Europa League last year, being the only team to defeat Bayer Leverkusen and doing so in dominant circumstances. And considering this is a team that he had his first version of Gasperini, that he had to move on as does generally happen to teams. You go through phases, you go through cycles. That team ended, and he's rebuilt into a new looking one, still with some of the old head from the previous regime, but the same principles, same philosophies, and I actually think a better team. And maybe that's a bit of recency bias, who knows? But I think there's certain qualities to this team. Now, high press, aggressive, intense. There's so many qualities off the ball, but first we're going to get started on the ball. Now, the thing that gets me about this Atalanta side is you look at the screen and it should sort of come out to you immediately. There's no midfield. Edison and Martin Darun / Pasalic. I'm going with Darun because I think he is a more favoured midfielder. I think his off the ball and his leadership qualities override the qualities of Pasalic offers. Pasalic has been a consistent player for Atalanta for a number of years, but you never felt like he's been that dependable first name on the team sheet. Edison's come in over the last few years and done an excellent job. Last few years, I think he was a signing from last season, and he's been excellent. He's been linked with a move away to Manchester United pretty frequently. You can see why. He's got great qualities as an aggressive ball-winning midfielder, but also a technically sound one. And they come in a little bit deeper. Now, as you can see, the back five is still intact with the wing-backs pushing high, Zappacosta and Ruggeri. But they spread further wide and they get higher and higher as the play goes on. And not just the wing backs that push higher, it's the wide centre backs that spread apart. As these guys start moving forward, all of a sudden that pushes the right centre back, Jim City, or it's been Kosanu in the last few games due to injury, and Kolasinac coming out into this left centre back position. Usually that would be Scalvini, who's an exciting left centre back who made it into the Italy squad for the Euros in the summer. Is a real talent. He's been out for the season, I think, through injury. I'm pretty sure it's through injury anyway. And as a result, Kolasinac has come in, who, look, we may remember as not being the greatest player from his time at Arsenal, but has been solid, consistent, and dependable for Atalanta, left wing back or at left centre back. And then all of a sudden, this becomes a defensive five and an attacking five. Now, Darun and Edison form little links to connect the central centre-back, which is Isaac Gian, to the wider centre-backs to receive the ball, get on it in these areas. And the way this complicates opposition teams is, how do you press this? What do you do with this? Because you can force turnovers in that defensive line, and obviously that will lead to clearer goal-scoring opportunities. But what structure do you go with to try and hit this? So let's say if you go with the 9, you go with the 10, the wide players go out to the wing-backs, you maybe get the fellow midfielder, the supporting 10 or the more advanced, deeper midfielder to jump on, and that leaves the number 4 a little bit deeper maybe to protect the number 10. But you're creating space in the middle of the park if you're going to full press them and if you're going to go man-to-man in these areas. And what that does is, because the Atalanta are so wide in the way they build up, is it creates angles in between the players pressing. And these passes can go up to Lookman, to Retegui, to De Ketelaere, who's been excellent this season, carrying on his form from last season, into these areas that creates passing lines and passing lanes into that more advanced five, whether that's, as I say, those shorter options, or maybe even getting a player that can switch it to the far side onto Zappacosta or Ruggeri out wide if they start to show in a little bit deeper in these areas. So by not having midfielders that are comfortable on the ball, receiving it on the half turn to progress the play through the thirds and beating the press, you are in essence opening the pitch up. You are creating more space in between those two lines. Because if you only sort of go with half the amount, let's say you leave the two centre midfielders deeper to block, then you're getting outnumbered. The number 9 and the number 10 are outnumbered in that central area. You bring a winger in, and there's an easy pass to go from the goalkeeper or whoever into the area out wide, and they can then put the ball forward because they're not really interested in retaining possession in these deeper areas. They will get the ball forward. So once they have that moment out wide, they can push forward with it. As much as the opposition team may press high, there's going to be space around it. So if they can quickly circulate it from the one side to the other, they can go to the outside to Zappacosta or maybe fire that ball into the Ketelaere. So either way, you can find space in the middle of the opposition or you can find space on the outside of it, even with this method of trying to press them high. And it's excellent from Atalanta. They can go around the outside through quick exchanges of short play, go direct up to the player on the far side or into a play that's dropping in. And typically you'll get Retegui and Lookman playing on the shoulder. They'll play in these little deeper areas. The one player that's got the freedom to come out into these areas is this man I just spoke about, De Ketelaere, who will pop up in these areas, make subtle little movements off of the defensive line, maybe off of his midfield marker, to receive the ball in a more advanced position, lay it off. Maybe that's with the ball in behind to Lookman or to Retegui, or finding the ball out wide to the wing backs. His intelligence, his first touch, his technical ability and his passing ability to quickly exploit the space between the lines and then outside of it, because even if he pulls off the defender in this area and gets a little bit of time and space, maybe someone hasn't read the situation well enough and they've given him a yard, this forces someone to react. Someone is going to give away space to try and close him down, and as a result, that then just creates opportunity for the pace and the dynamism for the team to really attack them. But if a team doesn't press this Atalanta team high, or the press is beaten, that doesn't kill Atalanta's attack at all if they can't use the direct option of Lookman's pace or Retegui's movement. They have other ways to break you down. What you are seeing here is a wide overload to the extreme. Now, there are two central players that will operate as the connection between the two sides. De Ketelaere, who will have a free role to come over and, as I say, just be that connecting player, and Gian, who's the option to go back to if maybe they can't penetrate down the side, the opposition shape is good, can quickly go back round to him, and he can try and circulate the ball around the other side. As I say, Atalanta aren't a possession-based team, they're a direct team, and as soon as an opening's blocked off, they will quickly go and find another one. They won't hold on to possession just for the sake of it. And it'll be with Retegui or Lookman coming over into this area to sort of offer that option in between centre-back and full-back, maybe even dropping a little bit deeper. The wing-back will stay high and wide. And typically, you'd think it would be the midfielder on this side to go and make maybe an underlapping run to just move into an area unmarked. Maybe a player's not going to pick that player up, especially if it's a wide centre-back or a holder midfielder. It's not. You typically get the wide centre-backs connecting with either Retegui or Zappacosta down this side to lay it off quickly to then receive the ball on the underlap into this area where they can create a really good crossing opportunity. And where they have the diamond on one side, they have it on the other. So if the play gets down in this area and Jim City or whoever makes that underlapping run, you have Lookman peeling off at the back post, coming in centrally. You have Ruggeri coming in from the wide areas. Maybe even you get Kolasinac or Edison moving up as well. You get De Ketelaere arriving the edge of the box, even Retegui coming in. So they attack the box really well through quick play, through 1-2 touch dynamism, movement, and just using that wide overload to break teams down and force openings because the amount over there. And as I say, De Ketelaere will offer it on the right side as well as the left side, making it basically a 5-on. And his ability to take the ball in tight situations to maybe find the movements of the likes of Jim City in these areas, to add that bit of panache, that bit of technical quality to find those runs in those dangerous areas is excellently. And again, even if that option isn't on to find Retegui or Jim City or Zappacosta, he can turn on the inside to find Lookman, who again, maybe making that run off the centre-back, he can just slide it in there. Where Retegui will be more of a target from crosses, especially from that left-hand side, whether it be Kolasinac or especially Ruggeri, who's got a really good cross on him. He's a fantastic aerial threat. He's got a good touch as well to be able to hold the ball up if the header isn't on. Lookman's pace and his movement around these areas to create opportunities has been golden for Atalanta. You saw it in the Europa League final where he bagged a hat-trick. It's impressive stuff. And also, with that, obviously leads to a very attacking overload in the box when you have all these players in this area. Let's bring Kanasadac in. Edison and Darun will typically be protecting Hien a little bit more, but they'll be a supporting cast member. Is not only do you have players attacking the box and able to create a better and clearer goal scoring opportunity, it makes the counter press so much easier. So if they do lose the ball, so let's just say it falls straight to a centre back, Lookman can move back onto him, Kolasinac can come around to Ketelaere, Jim City, Retegi, so they can quickly enact their press, and this is going to move it onto the off the ball, which is where this Atalanta team really shine. Now, we discuss high pressing teams a lot when we talk about games, teams, whatever. But typically, and I would say more often than not, a team that high presses generally drops into a more zonal shape. Once that press is beaten, they'll quickly revert into a 4-4-2, a 4-2-3-1, a 4-5-1, whatever their desired shape has to be. Not Atalanta. This is all about individual battles all over the pitch, wherever, and it's completely adaptable to the opponent's shape. So I've just pulled up a 4-2-3-1 here, just for the sake of an example. This could be a 3-4-3, 3-box-4, very wide 3. Doesn't matter. They will have a shape for it. They will press high man to man and combat it individually. Gasperini, I think one of his beliefs and one of his core principles is space isn't the danger, the man is. And he doesn't just use those words as a little token gesture to fans or something to throw out into the media. You can see by his tactical performances he means that to death. And so they will press high, they will look to win the ball back as quick as possible and force turnovers. And it's not just through the pressing of a player and winning the ball back that they'll look to use to their advantage. It's the result of that. So let's just say, if I'm going to use an example here, De Ketelaere coming up into the number 4 here, he'll press him, he'll try and win the ball back, he'll prevent him from getting on the turn, which is a key aspect to the team's high press. It won't just be that, it'll be if this forces him into a panicked pass, whoever's within that zone has to then be able to react to it. So let's just say he tries to find the wing back in this area. Zappacosta, if that pass is poor, has got to be able to read it and intercept. And then as a result, use that moment to create a clear goal scoring opportunities in as few passes as possible, which again helps when you've got the movement and pace of Ademola Lookman coming in to these areas. Let's just use this little moment as an example. Zappacosta could easily find him where he can get a shot away and lead to a goal scoring opportunity. Retegi as well, who isn't as off the mark quick, but he's a more powerful runner and his movement's probably a lot more smarter because it has to be, because he doesn't have the pace of Ademola Lookman. And so they've got to be able to read those loose ball situations, and that includes a gamble. That means you're leaving space, as with any man marking system. And if anyone's watched my channel long enough, you know I'm not the greatest advocate of complete man marking systems, but I admire this because the principles and the coaching and the fitness levels that this Atalanta team have consistently had over the years have been top notch. They all know their roles. They're all singing off the same hymn sheet. They all have the energy and the fitness levels required. And that comes down to, as I said just then, great coaching, but fantastic recruitment to see the players that have the desired quality, which is why I think Darun is always going to be such an essential part to this Atalanta team. Is discipline, his man-marking capabilities, and his tackling have stood him in great stead. Fantastic energy levels to keep up with the pace of the game, and he's always been a fantastic asset to Atalanta. He's getting older, obviously, and you can't keep this style up forever, but he's always been so dependable, 7 out of 10 for Atalanta. And the only time you maybe get a player that's going to drop off slightly is if the play comes over to this right-hand side. Let's say they try and build up through the right back and they can't. Ruggeri comes and presses him, and the defence has to then maybe come across because of the opposition shape coming across. If I just move Hien and Jim City over, Zappacosta will drop in and just protect that back line, maybe leaving a little bit of space in between him and his fullback. But if that ball then goes back and the pass to that Zappacosta's marker becomes a clearer option, he'll very quickly be very alert to the danger and move up into his marker and prevent that passing lane from coming open and be ready to press and be ready to win the ball if it comes over to him. Now, naturally, with the man marking, the wider centre backs will get dragged high up the pitch as these players will look to show for the ball in the half spaces. So if I just move Kolasinac and Jim City forward up the pitch, this can leave Hien isolated. Now, again, while this will lead to opportunities, because the thing that is always the danger with man-marking philosophies, one person loses one marker, you're done. That creates a domino effect, and as a result, players are chasing their tails a little bit, and so this creates danger. He then does a fantastic job, as best as he possibly can, from these areas of managing the space, of matching strikers' markers that make runs into the channel off of the centre area to find the space and behind the wide centre-backs pressing. And he is excellent with it. He's got the pace to keep up with quick plays. He's got the physicality to match them in duels and win the ball, and forcing them into this area to give his team just enough time, if he can't win the ball, to then get back into shape and protect the areas of the pitch and track the runs that are going to be made through the player making this run. Such a fantastically disciplined defender, very underrated, someone that a lot of European clubs should look at. United have just adopted a manager with a back three. He's a player that they should absolutely be watching if they want to transform that to the next level, because he could be so vital to any team wanting to play with this type of system, as he has been for Atalanta since he joined in January. I think he's very, very good. And that still retains as well when the team moves further up the pitch. Atalanta will still retain that man-marking style. You know, they're not just high press and then they drop off into the zonal shape, as I was just saying, as we see a lot of teams do, as we see most teams do. They'll still man mark. They'll still track the runs that get made from these areas into half spaces from, wide tens, wingers, and they've still got to stick to their man marking jobs. Player is more dangerous than the space, and that is the Gasperini philosophy. So, as I say, if this number 9 wins the ball, Gym City is still going to be able to match this run of the player making the run off of him, and likewise, the number 10 in this area, Darun's got to track him, Kolasinac as well with the number 7. So they've got to be alert. They've got to get up the pitch and got to get down the pitch as quick as possible, preventing the danger from opening up. And it leads to some fantastically entertaining games for Atalanta. If you have never watched an Atalanta game, you're missing out. Find a way to watch them. They're accessible in the Champions League now. You will not regret it. But I'd love to know what you guys think, Atalanta fans, if there are any watching this by chance. Tell me what you think of Gasperini. I'm surprised he hasn't been more touted with bigger European jobs, because I think his accomplishments at Atalanta has earned it. But maybe he likes the job he's doing at Atalanta. Maybe he wants to stay. I think that sometimes gets a little underrated. But I'd love to know your opinions. And I'm remiss that I didn't mention this when I was describing tactical evolution in Serie A in my AC Milan and Juventus video the other day, because Atalanta have done it fantastically well and bringing such an aggressively different style to the league. But again, I'd love to hear discussion on this. Thank you guys for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, comment down below and tell me why either way. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in a bit, lads.